All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Have you ever killed a houseplant before? Don't worry, you are not alone. But what if I told you you're not destined to be a plant killer? What if I told you you could not only fill your home with gorgeous, luscious, happy, thriving plants, but live a happier life through caring for them? Hey, new plant friend, my name is Maria. I am a former plant killer turned happy plant lady and host of the Growing Joy with Plants podcast, where it is my life's mission to help you grow happy plants and thrive alongside them. Because when you learn to care for plants, you really learn to slow down, connect with nature, and nurture yourself too. Each week, I share expert tips, inspiring conversations, and soulful planty wisdom to help you grow a greener, happier life. So if you're ready to turn your plant struggles into plant joy and get the green thumb you've always dreamed of, search Growing Joy with Plants wherever you listen to podcasts and hit subscribe. That's Growing Joy with Plants podcast. Let's grow some joy together.
Coming up on episode 223 of Wheel Bearings, the hot Audi RS6 Avant, a couple of plug-in hybrids from BMW and Lincoln, the Android Automotive and the 2022 Chevrolet Tahoe, the Subaru Forester Wilderness, Nissan's upcoming electric vehicle plans, the new Genesis G90, Ford and GM and chips, all that and more coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is episode 223 of Wheel Bearings, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. I am Sam Abu-Al-Samad of Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakelin with TrueCar.
And I am Roberto Baldwin with, let's say, TechCrunch.
And Nicole, what have you been driving around in?
Well, I was driving around in a vehicle that I've actually driven before, so it's kind of like take two, but instead of just on a drive program, I'm actually getting to drive it around the neighborhood. I had the all-new 2022 Subaru Forester Wilderness, which I drove maybe about a month ago or so out in Bend, Oregon, and we got to take it, do a little off-roading, which was super fun. But now I had it like really honestly in a more everyday circumstances. I mean, I had this through Thanksgiving week, so I ferried my kids around in it. I ferried my mom around in it. I ferried a lot of pumpkin pie and leftover turkey in it. So I had a week to sort of live with this car. It is sort of the off-roady version of what's already a little bit of an off-roady car. It is priced at, I just lost the price. Yeah, I'll find it in a second. But it adds in a little extra ground clearance. It adds in a little extra protection. It has 17-inch wheels, all-terrain tires. It has a front skid plate, and it can tow up to 3,000 pounds. It's got water-resistant seating surfaces. So it's like your slightly more capable version of your Forester, which you could, I mean, it's not like you're going to go rock crawling in this, but you can actually do a little bit of off-roading in it. Now that I found the pricing, the Wilderness starts at $32,820, so it's about $33,000. So it's not crazy expensive. It's not like you're having to move up and pay an exorbitant amount more, where the base trim starts at $25,000. So it's a jump, but it's a reasonable jump. You get,
and it's well below the average selling price of new cars today, which is, I think, last I saw was about $41,000 now.
Exactly. So it's like you're moving up, like within the Forester lineup. Yeah, you're paying more. You could get the cheapest Forester for $25,000, but for $32,000, you can get this. And that doesn't sit at the top of the lineup. There's still the Limited and there's still the Touring, which actually come in higher because they get basically like an upgraded interior. If you want the fancy, if you want it to be like the more elegant, can a Subaru be elegant? If you
That's a weird.
By Subaru standards, yeah.
By Subaru standards, if you want the elegant Subaru, you can go with the Limited for 32 or for the Touring at 35, and get, fancier speakers, that kind of thing. But the Wilderness sort of sits in the middle at 32,820, 9.2 inches of ground clearance. So you can actually drive over. We did some, not super rugged, we weren't rock crawling, but we managed some uneven terrain when we were in Oregon, and it handles it well. But getting to drive it around for a week of just living with it, like taking to the grocery store, taking the family around, taking the kids here and there, it's a very livable, very comfortable vehicle. It's easy, and you don't worry about ruining the interior. I had somebody who said to me, he said, I have a dog. He messaged me on Twitter and said, I have a dog, and does that have the extra protection for the dog, or is it, enough that you could just put your pets in there and not worry about it? And I'm like, well, it's a Subaru. It's got a pretty durable interior.
It's literally made for dogs.
It is made for dogs. The fact that there's a human behind the wheel, they're like, oh, well, I guess we have to do that. But it's like, it's made for dogs. So I really, truly wouldn't be worried about putting my dog in there with some muddy paws. If you're super anal about how clean your car stays, get a cover to cover it, so you don't have to worry about little claws or muddy footprints. But this is a relatively rough and ready crossover SUV. I guess you call it an SUV, compact SUV. So I feel like it's a good choice. I am a fan of it. I think for the pricing and for what it does, it's great. We were supposed to get snow. I was really hoping we'd get some decent snow.
Oh, you can put the snow button.
Yes. Yeah, couldn't use the snow button because I look outside and the amount of snow we got was an amount of snow where you looked and went, is that frost? Or is that snow?
You have to second guess it.
You have to second guess if it's real. And I'm like, that's not enough to use a snow button. That's not enough to engage X mode and fully put this to the test. I could not engage the X mode. So I talked about this one on the show before because I believe I talked about it when I did the first drive. So it sort of just reinforced what I had learned out there is that, it's a good price, it's a good vehicle, it's a tough vehicle, it's good for the outdoorsy, active lifestyle so that you don't have to feel like it's so delicate inside that you're going to ruin things the first time you toss in a pair of muddy boots or your dog runs through with muddy paws or your kids are just kids because they're, I don't know, they just breed mess everywhere kids go.
Children.
Jeez.
Dogs are definitely better.
Dogs are definitely easier to deal with than children.
And they don't expect to go to college or anything like that. So.
No, they don't expect you to pay tens of thousands of dollars to educate them. I mean, my daughter's going to school and writing checks for $10,000 every so many months. My dog, I just paid $500 and he's all trained. We're good,
Yeah.
Ta-da, see? $500, the best
easier.
tuition.
Way easier for that tuition cost. No need to fill out FAFSA forms and get student loans at all. So
none of that. I drove the Outback Wilderness a few weeks ago, and it's great. I really liked it. I liked it. It's the ground clearance is nearly that of a G-Wagon.
And so it's actually slightly more than what you get, in Ford's Bronco Sport, which is, their supposedly off-road, rugged, compact utility.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bronco the Sport, I always think of it as a baby Bronco. It doesn't feel, and I know it's done some pretty rugged stuff. I mean, they ran that thing in the Rebelle and they won, but I don't think I would really off-road in that as a rule.
It's more like a fraternal twin where one of the twins got like all the cool athletics, and the other one's Danny DeVito. And
it's kind of the runt of the family.
So the Bronco is Arnold, and the Bronco Sport is Danny DeVito.
Kind of, yeah. But Danny DeVito's got a lot of great. Danny DeVito. He's a great actor. He's hilarious. He's a nice guy. There's nothing wrong with Danny DeVito.
And the Bronco Sport is a perfectly nice little utility.
It is way better than the Escape, which it's based on. Don't buy the Escape. Buy the Bronco. If you're looking at the Escape, I want you to stop. And I want you to go over and look at the Bronco Sport.
Stop it right now.
But also cross-shop it with the Outback Wilderness because you could. I like the fact that it's waterproof or water resistant, and you can just have filthy things in there.
Well, and I love that. I'm assuming it's probably the same water resistant fabric that's in the Forester or whatever it is. It doesn't look cheesy and cheapy and plastic.
It doesn't look cheap at anything.
When you first glance at it, you're like, oh, what is you notice that it's not really leather, but it looks
doesn't
more
look like
upscale.
pleather. It doesn't look.
Yeah.
It doesn't look cheap and
It
gross
doesn't look like cheap
or
imitation.
neoprene. It doesn't look like a
Neoprene, yeah.
wetsuit. Remember though, you put like wetsuit on your seats back in the
Yes.
90s. That was a bad scene.
That was a bad idea. But no, it's actually a material that looks. It's durable, but it looks nice. That's kind of the cool thing about a Subaru. It never looks... It's always durable. It always holds up to whatever you throw at it. But it never looks like its only goal is just to preserve itself. It's like, I'm going to look good doing this. You throw the mud on me. It's okay. But I don't look like it's just like... It's not like... You know the plastic that your great-grandma put over the couch? So the couch...
Yeah, it doesn't look like that.
It's not that. In some cars, you're like, oh, you've done the plastic couch thing. This one, you're like, no. You're letting me sit on the couch. The couch is just going to hold up. Excellent.
Yeah.
We actually have a question from a listener later that's related to this topic. So we'll come back to seat coverings later on in the show. All right. Anything else on the Forester Wilderness?
No, that covers it. Also, oh no, it doesn't. So it's technically bronze trim, and someone got mad at me because I said it looked orange. It's kind of an orangey bronze. I know there's already orange accents, and it's like burnished bronze or something. It's kind of orangey, guys, in real life.
It looks orange.
Yeah, I was like, you're colorblind. That is not bronze. That's not orange. I'm like, it's kind of orange as I'm sitting here staring at it.
It looks orange. If someone doesn't tell you it's bronze, you're like, oh, look at that orange trim.
Exactly.
Don't be pedantic, people, about color.
Yeah, what he said. Don't be pedantic
and
about
different
color.
people see color in different ways, so...
Yeah, that's
Dog
true.
seconds that idea.
The dog seconds the idea.
Dog's like, yes, rip.
Yeah. She doesn't see color in any way we do, but she knows what we're talking about. Nico.
All right. Roberto, what have you been in?
I have been in three, but two that I will, well, one of them's a motorcycle. First, I'm going to talk about okay, so whenever we get cars, we're always like, there's an expectation of what the car is going to be. And sometimes the hype sort of a lot of vehicles don't live up to the hype, especially when you get the press release and you're like, oh, and you drive, you're like, okay, well, they got 80% there, which is actually pretty good. 20% just, hyperbole. Last Tuesday, I got the Audi RS6 Avant.
Ooh.
Does it live up to the hyperbole?
It does live up to the hyperbole. I love that car. It's very expensive. It is. I feel like the price has changed since the last time I looked at it. It starts at. Oh yeah, hold on, everyone, sit down, breathe. $116,500.
Gosh.
Ooh, yeah. It is a lot of money for a station wagon.
Oh God.
But since it's a station wagon, it's obviously worth it.
It is. I feel like it is worth it because you get it as soon as you sit down. And there are cars. Again, you sit in and you're like, oh, this is very nice. This is I sat in the car. This is again. I got that feel. This is very nice. This is exactly what this car needs to be. It's very utilitarian because it's a wagon, but it's also insane. It's like a supercar. And a station wagon got married, and this is their first child. This is their this is the one that's going to that's got all the AP classes, but also is king of the captain of the whatever team.
Captain of the football team.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that this is the car that the Cadillac CTS-V Sport Wagon wanted to be?
Yes. And I know I like that wagon.
But I love the CTS-V wagon.
But it is not it's all-wheel drive. Has the Quattro system. Hold on, I'm gonna close this door because dog.
My dog is sound asleep in my arms. He's absolutely passed out.
All day she's quiet. All right, here we go.
By the end of the podcast, my arm will be completely asleep.
This, if you're somebody who wants something fast, but you also need utility. You still have kids. You still have to drag stuff around, but you don't want to look like absolutely everyone else on the road, and you have some money. You can get, a GL whatever. You can get a BMW X whatever, or you can get the RS6 Avant and be the coolest mom and or dad at school.
True.
Because it looks amazing. I had a millennial come up to me and say it looked amazing. I had a boomer come up to me and said it looked amazing. It's crossing the multi-generational.
Did you have a Gen Xer walk up to you and say it was amazing?
I'm Gen X, and Gen X doesn't talk about anything, and we would rather be left. We would rather be left.
Like,
we would rather be left alone. Gen X is like, you guys do what you do. Just leave us alone. We got stuff to take care of. It looks amazing, but when you're on the freeway, you're driving, you're maybe going a little too fast. Cops are not going to notice that. You know why? Because you're a station wagon.
You can't possibly be up to any
You
mission
sort of disappear.
I have loved the look of the Audi station wagons, like the upper mid-size Audi station wagons, since I think it was the late '80s, mid to late '80s, when the original 5000 Avant came out. Because it always had that sloped rear window, so it was a wagon, but it still had, when you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, it's a little sportier looking than your average wagon. It's always had great proportions. And then, up to this one, the RS6, you've got the wider fenders and everything to go with that. And then of course, the powertrain.
It's that V8, the giant V8, 591 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, in a station wagon. I'm just going to keep saying that. RS mode, you tap RS mode twice, it turns off the traction control, your stability control. You can get it sideways. You can break the back end. Not that I would do that.
No,
but you could.
No responsible auto journalist would ever do that.
You've heard that's what would happen.
He read the manual.
I read the manual.
It says so in the manual.
Yeah.
RTFM.
RTF. It's available with 21 or 22-inch wheels. The wheel is they just take up the entire wheel well. There's a 22 on there. It looks fantastic. It's comfortable. It's nice to drive. It has all the regular Audi accoutrements, so it's very luxurious inside. It just, I feel like I'm gushing over this vehicle. And
you are gushing. Do you have a crush on this car?
I do. If I were rich and I had lots of money, it would be a tough sell, but it would be a tough decision between this and the new Taycan Sport Turismo.
Ooh.
Well, if you're sufficiently wealthy, why choose?
Well, you know what? Let's just go all the way. I am very rich, and I have two wagons.
There you go.
You refuse to make compromises.
I refuse to make compromises.
One of each.
I'll let the dogs decide which one they want to go in the dog park in. So that's one car I drove this week. What else did I drive?
Well, and your wife could trade up, from the Kona, get rid of the Kona EV, and she could drive the Taycan Sport Turismo to work.
Yeah, boom, done. I think we solved all of our problems. Still driving an EV. Yeah. Still the number one car that's being driven in the house is still an EV, so we're still feeling good about what we're doing. I take the dogs to the dog park in the RS6. Everyone's happy. I could go to the Home Depot and pick up mulch. I could, if I went to Costco, I could do that. There's only two of us. I don't know. I
thought you could have a truck to get mulch. You're allowed to get mulch in a wagon.
You can get
that mulch is the beauty of
anything. All the fun of a truck without your stuff getting stolen because someone just reached in and grabbed it.
Right.
Grabbed all your mulch.
It would have been perfect on Saturday when I had to go to Lowe's to get a supply line for our new dishwasher. The RS6 would have been the perfect vehicle for that trip.
Boom.
There
Perfect.
You go.
See? Everything about the RS6 is perfect.
Everything is... Wow.
Everything is not everything's perfect.
So y'all know what to get Robbie for Christmas now.
So if you want to buy me a Christmas present, and you're not Audi, I don't want a car from an automaker. Don't give me stuff. Audi RS6. I also drove another car, which was not quite as exciting. I drove the BMW 330e. I'm doing a review for Digital Trends. For this vehicle, it is the plug-in hybrid 3 Series. They have the rear-wheel drive version, and they have the X-Drive all-wheel drive. I had the rear-wheel drive version. I will say it is 90% good. There is a weird 10% not so good, and that is when you're in hybrid mode. Sometimes when you take off, it just goes. It like kind of jerks forward. And it did that while my wife had turned to talk to me, and it hit her head up against the thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. It didn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen every time. But every once in a while, the hybrid system's like, all right, EV mode, let's go. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it's not enough where you jerk forward and then you're just like flying. It's like jerk forward and then you just sort of groove into the speed.
But it is enough that you have to apologize to your wife for snapping her head forward in the seat.
Yes, every once in a while, it does that. Which I was like, okay, that's weird. But if you put it in EV mode, doesn't do it. Put it in sport mode, doesn't do it. It's in hybrid. At some point, I think we live like the stoplight near our house is on a hill, so maybe that was, I don't know. So, but for the most part, though, it's like $1,500 more than the gas-only version, both for the xDrive and for the rear-wheel drive. And I'm like, well, why would you get the gas version? It's when you factor in any sort of incentives, I think it's about a little over $5,000 for federal incentives for this, plus any local and state incentives you might get.
Maybe you're just anti-hybrid.
Maybe. But you get 20 miles of range in EV mode, which I got 19.8 in my test, which include me like doing 70 on the freeway and stomping on the gas and like doing real world like mixed driving. It had, I think it's 5.6 0 to 60. It's both vehicles. It has more power than the other vehicle, but it has the same 0 to 60 time. Just
I have a question.
Because
now
weight.
that you were saying it gets, what did you say the range was? 20 miles?
20 miles.
It gets 20 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw something come up on Twitter. Now I need to ask both you guys it. He said that plug-in hybrids should not be allowed to charge at public charging stations because it should be reserved only for actual EVs.
Oh yeah, that was another journalist. I forget who it was.
Yeah, I remember who it was, but I'm not naming it.
This was something that.
Yay or nay?
Nay. I think they should be allowed to charge.
Okay.
Roberto, this was something
yay or
that
nay?
came up 10 years ago when the Volt first came out.
Yeah.
I think it's fine because those public chargers aren't, especially the free ones, like the Blink. The
or
ones
even
at the
if
mall.
even if they're one that's not free, even if you're going to an EV Go or
well, if you're
whatever.
paying, then you're paying.
Yeah, the thing with public, if you're going to plug in a plug-in hybrid at a public charger, I think there's some etiquette that we need to develop around these things. If there are 2 parking spaces where you can access the charger, and one is occupied by a plug-in hybrid, and you're driving an EV, and you really, really, really need a charge. I mean, you're empty, and you don't have an option to go somewhere else. I think it's okay to unplug the plug-in hybrid because it can go. You can unplug it, especially if the lights you can see from the charge indicator lights that that it's full or near
I would
full.
only unplug. I think I could only unplug if it was full. Otherwise, I would feel like I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. I would be like,
well,
he's
it can still operate as a hybrid.
Yeah, but I just don't. Then I feel like it's like, well, I gotta I don't know. If it was full,
If you
I might
leave a
be
little
tempted.
note,
If it was full,
hey,
Yeah,
so sorry.
I would be living in this mall for 6 days if you didn't.
I needed to charge my first generation Leaf that only gets 55 miles on a charge now. After
or my
10
current
years.
generation Mazda CX. No,
Yeah.
CX-30.
MX-30. Yeah.
The MX-30.
sorry.
I have an MX-30. Please help me.
And the other thing is, if you are the driver of a plug-in hybrid, then also be courteous. Keep be conscious of how long it's going to take to charge your car, and don't leave it sitting there on a charger all day long.
Yes.
Like if you're charging at work, for example, if you've got workplace charging, go ahead and plug it in. When you get in the morning, if you've got a 25 or 30 mile commute, go ahead and plug it in, and then after a couple of hours, when it's fully charged up, unplug it and move it. And
I think most people are pretty good. Like I know my husband's office, they had only I think 2 charging stations at his office, but they had quite a few EVs at one point. And I can remember him saying that, like, his colleagues would be like, oh, wait, I'll be right back. I got to run out. My car is finished charging. I want to unplug in case anybody else. Like, they would literally run out, relocate their little vehicles, and let someone else charge it. So I think most people are pretty good about that when they can be. I think the question with this was more like, if you're just a plug-in hybrid, you should not be taking away the charging station in any circumstances from an actual full EV.
If I am driving and I have a PHEV and I go to a mall and it's one of those free chargers and there's like one or two, I'm not gonna charge. That's just no point. Those things aren't very quick. It's sort of whatever. If I go to a place where there's like 8 and I have to pay and there's idle fees, because everyone you pay has an idle fee. So if I just leave my car there, I'm still losing money. I'm paying money to get the charge, which PHEVs have like a super slow charge rate anyway, because they don't need 100 or 50 or 25 or even 14 kilowatts.
Yeah, they're usually like 6.6 kilowatts.
Yeah. So, it's not a, I think just be a good person. I just say, no, don't charge there. Seems just sort of like, ugh. But at the same time, I'm like, just be a.
Oh, now the podcast is official. You're making sound effects again, Robbie. Okay, we're good.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I sidetracked us, but that came up, and I was like, I'm curious what the guys would do.
Yeah, it's a legit question. Yeah, and
I think it's legit.
As we get more and more plug-in vehicles on the road, it's something that we're going to have to learn to deal with. And also, even for EV drivers, and I think I've talked about this before. There have been times, especially when I've been out in California, when I've had an EV to drive, and I've gone to charging stations. DC fast charging stations, and I get there, and there, it's charging stations, next to a grocery store, and right next to the handicap spots, and I get there, and there are EVs parked in front of the chargers that are not plugged in.
Yeah, that's
just because you drive an EV
that's a jerk move.
Does not entitle you to park in front of a charger unless you are actually using that charger.
That's like the equivalent of parking sideways across two spots so no one parks like too close to your car.
Yeah.
You mean like that Tesla Model S I saw yesterday?
Like the Tesla Model S, apparently, you saw yesterday.
Tesla Model.
When you weren't busy installing a new dishwasher.
Yeah. So anything else on the 330e, Robbie?
Nah. I kind of forgot. I kind of forgot all about it. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me get the price. Hold on. I have it written down. I'm writing the review right now. I'm sure it's in here. I'm sure I had it pulled up at some point. Okay, rear-wheel drive is $42,950. X-Drive is $44,950. And again, those are only $1,500 more than the gas equivalent, and the tax credit. Oh, the tax credit is up to $5,836. That's just federal. So if you have state, California state, if you live in like San Joaquin Valley, I think there's another, different regions in addition to state have credits or incentives. So it's actually cheaper than the regular 330i, and you get to plug it in at night. Or plug it in and make somebody on the internet really angry. One or the other.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, Click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
All right. I also had a plug-in hybrid for a couple of days. I had the new Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring last week, just before the holiday. And Lincoln, this is technically a first drive program. Lincoln's not doing a full media drive for this. They're just doing 2-day loans to get people familiarized with it, and then they'll put them in the regular press fleet after that. So the Corsair Grand Touring was initially announced 2 years ago at the 2019 LA Auto Show, the last time we had an LA show. And this is the plug-in hybrid version of the Corsair. And like its sibling, the Ford Escape plug-in hybrid, it went through some delays. It was supposed to come out in mid-2020. Didn't arrive until a few weeks ago. And they had some issues with the European version of the Escape, which is called the Kuga, last year with some battery fires while it was charging, and it was caused by a manufacturing defect that they had with the battery cells that was causing a short circuit. And so when you plugged it in to charge, occasionally it would catch fire, which is not a good plan. And so they delayed it while they sorted that out. And they launched the Escape here a couple of months ago, and we talked about that. And now they've launched the Corsair, and the Corsair, like other current generation Lincolns, shares a basic platform with Ford vehicles, but it looks completely different. It's totally different sheet metal. Everything in the interior is different. You get into one of these, you get into a Corsair, and you look around. You would never guess that this is sharing a platform with the Escape and the Bronco Sport and the Maverick, because there's nothing that you touch or feel or look at that looks like it came out of a Ford vehicle. All the parts in the interior are unique, and it's a pretty stylish looking vehicle. I like it. It's got a nice sculpted body side to it, and similar profile to the Aviator, but obviously smaller. So when you look at it in profile, the roof line kind of drops off a little bit towards the rear, give it a little bit of a teardrop shape. Under the hood, the front half of the powertrain is basically the same as what you get in the Escape Hybrid or the Escape Plug-in Hybrid or the Maverick Hybrid. So you get a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with Ford's hybrid drive unit in there, and together the electric motor and the engine give you about 200 horsepower to work with. And then for the plug-in hybrid, like in the Escape plug-in hybrid, there's a 14.4 kilowatt hour battery pack that sits underneath the second row seat, so it doesn't intrude on the cargo space at all, like it did in the old C-Max plug-in hybrids or in the Fusion plug-in hybrid. It's a nice compact battery pack, and then the big difference between the Corsair and the Escape plug-in hybrid is the Corsair adds another electric motor to the rear axle. So the Escape plug-in hybrid is only available in front-wheel drive right now. You can't get an all-wheel drive Escape plug-in hybrid. For the Corsair, it comes only with all-wheel drive with an electric drive motor on the rear axle, 50 kilowatt motor. So you have a total of about 266 horsepower altogether versus 200 in the Escape. So it definitely feels a little more aggressive off the line than the Escape does. It is also heavier, so it doesn't feel substantially more powerful, but it's a little more powerful. The one I had was pretty much loaded with all the goodies. It had like 23 or 24 way power adjustable seats with split thigh bolsters and massaging and all that kind of stuff in it. When it arrived, beginning of last week, we were starting to get into a bit of a cold snap here in Michigan, and I took it out twice to do mileage runs with a full charge to see how much electric driving I could do on a full charge. When I had the Escape plug-in, it was quite a bit warmer. It was in the 60s, I think, when I had it, 60s or 70s. And I got 41 miles with that one. And then when I had the Audi Q5 plug-in hybrid back in mid-October, with that one, I got 21 miles on that one. But that one is quite a bit more powerful than the Corsair. It's similar size to the Corsair, but quite a bit more powerful because it's got a turbo 4-cylinder engine, whereas this one's normally aspirated. And the Corsair got 28 miles. Got 27 miles on one run, 28 miles on the other one. So pretty reasonable. It's not great. It's better than the Audi, better than the BMW that you just had, Robbie. The other chief competitor to this vehicle that is coming out soon is the new Lexus NX 450h Plus, which is also going to be a plug-in hybrid. Similar configuration to this with a 2.5-liter engine and the hybrid and electric rear motor, but it'll be a little more powerful because it's the Lexus NX is going to have the same powertrain that's in the RAV4 hybrid plug-in or RAV4 Prime. So it's going to be about 306 horsepower. So it's definitely a little quicker than the Corsair. And it's also got a bigger battery than the Corsair. It's got, I think, an 18 kilowatt hour battery pack. So Lexus hasn't got official numbers on that one yet, but they're projecting it's going to get about 36 miles of range, which sounds about right. So this one's not bad. The Corsair, if you're looking for, a premium compact crossover, that looks and feels really nice, really nice materials, nice real wood trim, real leather, comfortable seats. This has got all that stuff in it. The touchscreen, the center touchscreen, because it's still on the Escape Bronco Sport platform, this hasn't been upgraded to Sync 4 yet, so it's still on the older Sync 3 system, which is fine. It's still a decent system. It's only a 10-inch screen, not even a 10-inch. I think it's actually an 8-inch display. Wow. Yeah, so it's a considerably smaller display. Yeah, it's an 8-inch center touchscreen. Whereas
isn't it funny when you think about an 8-inch touchscreen not that long ago?
I know that was
a good sized touchscreen. Like it was like a 5-inch screen was tiny. Now an 8-inch screen is tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because 8-inch, anything bigger than like 7-8 inches, you're just like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice having all this real estate to see all the things, but the reality is like, well, can I see the map? All right, cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I read the streets? Okay, I can see where I turn. I'm good.
Yeah, see where I'm going. All right.
And the Corsair I had was equipped with the optional heads-up display, and so if you're using navigation, if you're using either the built-in nav or Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it shows you the navigation prompts in the heads-up display, so it'll tell you where to turn. So that's good. The Audi has a 10-inch display, and the NX has a 14-inch screen. So, kind of puts this one a little to shame. But
it's like, ooh, look how big the icons are in CarPlay.
Yeah. This got really nice ride quality. It lives up to, for the most part, Lincoln's theme of quiet flight. Especially when it's running in electric mode, it's very quiet. When it the engine comes on, in most normal driving, it's fairly quiet. But when you get on the accelerator, to accelerate hard with the engine on, it's less refined than what you'll get certainly in the Audi.
You get a scooch of turbulence in your quiet flight.
Yeah, a little bit of turbulence, or a little bit of that roar you get, when you're taking off in a jet plane. When the jet engines are at full throttle, you get that roar coming from under the wings. That's kind of what you get. Once you get up to cruising speed, the pilots throttle back, then it gets nice and quiet again. So, the Corsair, the 22 model year Corsair, the one I had was actually a 21 model, but the only thing that's changing for 22 is they've got a couple of color options, and they've rearranged some of the option packages. So the 22 starts at $51,425, including delivery, which is not inexpensive, but it's also not out of line with the Audi and the Lexus, or at least where we expect the Lexus to be. As equipped, the way I drove it was $62,300, including the 20-inch wheels and the luxury package. But it does come with you do get a $6,843 federal tax credit available for this one. So that's now you're down back into the mid 50s, which is again not crazy expensive, not cheap, but not crazy expensive. So if you want something in a premium compact crossover that looks nice, drives really nice, and it can go about 25, 28. You can probably, in warmer weather, you could probably easily get over 30 miles of electric range. That'll suit most of the daily driving that most people do. Just plug it in at night and unplug it in the morning, and you're good to go. It's not a bad deal.
It has that bonkers dash cluster that all the Lincolns have,
where
it's like very minimalistic, and then you change the mode, and it's just like, it's like an explosion of sight and sound and color. Like, what is that? The Earth? Like, what is happening?
When you switch modes, it goes through all kinds of cool graphics. So I also had another vehicle which came when the Lincoln went away, which is the 22 Chevy Tahoe Premier. And like last week when I had a vehicle that was canceled because in this case the Nissan Pathfinder had to go to the shop. The fleet guy called me up and said, "Hey, can't send you the Pathfinder tomorrow. Do you want a BMW X4M competition or 22 Chevy Tahoe?" And I asked him if the X4M competition had winter tires on it yet. He said nope. And I looked at the weather forecast, and I saw that we were expected to get several inches of snow this weekend, which we did get. And I said, "I'll take the Tahoe, thank you very much."
Tahoe, please. Yeah.
And the Tahoe, pretty straightforward, big, full-size American SUV. It's been top seller in its class for a million years. The Premier's got the 6.2 liter V8, so it's got lots and lots and lots of power, and has a healthy thirst for petroleum products. The main thing that has changed for the 22 model year is that they updated the infotainment system, and the new Tahoe just launched a year ago. And they've already upgraded the infotainment for 22. It's GM's new Android Automotive based infotainment. So they've replaced the old system that they had, and it's quite good. I like it a lot. So this is running Android inside. It's got Google Assistant. It's got Google Maps, and you can download Android apps from the Google Play Store right in the infotainment system. So, if you want to listen to podcasts, you can get Google Podcasts or Pocket Casts or whatever. Or you can also get stuff like Hoopla or Libby to download content from your local public library. All kinds of cool stuff right in there. You can just log in with your Google account right in the vehicle, and then start downloading apps in there. So you don't even have to hook up your phone to it. It just does it directly through the cellular connection that's built into the vehicle. The new Tahoe. This is the first time I've actually driven the Tahoe. I've had the Sierra before, or the Yukon before and the Escalade. The new generation Tahoe, they finally switched the rear axle from a live axle to an independent rear suspension. Much better ride quality. This one had the optional air springs. It's also got a 2-speed transfer case, so if you want to go off-roading in this thing, you've got a 4-wheel drive low range for some rock crawling, and it's really nice. It's a much improved interior over previous generation Tahoes. Really feels much more in line with the price point, which is not inexpensive. The 22 Tahoe starts at $49,700, so $50,000. The one I drove was a 4-wheel drive Premier, which came to a bottom line price of $76,670.
Wow.
Including the $1,695 delivery charge. $8,900 in options on top of the Premier trim package. So it's one thing I will say for certain, if you are considering buying a big truck or a big SUV like this, if they offer an option for the digital camera mirror, the interior camera mirror, absolutely get that. If it's not standard equipment, take whatever option package you have to get that, because it is so much better actually being able to see what's right behind you, because these things sit up pretty high, and with 3 rows of seats and headrests and heavily tinted windows, it's really hard to see anything behind you or off to the sides in this thing. So the digital camera mirror makes it so much easier to maneuver around, and because you can actually see what's behind you with this thing, and that's definitely a very worthwhile option.
I'm curious with the camera mirrors, because when I look through a mirror, I'm looking. My eyesight has gotten messed up in the last few years. My close-up eyesight. I took some medication, messed me up. So anyway, so things that are close to me, it's difficult for me to see. And I realize with those types of rear view cameras, which I love. I loved it on the Bolt. I loved it on the Cadillac. Now I'm looking at it a little bit fuzzy. They should make us. They should make so you can adjust the focus like you do in your camera. Like, you look through it. Like, they should make it so I don't know.
Diopter adjustment.
Yeah, like a little diopter adjustment, and have it set for like certain profiles. Like my wife can see fine. She just And so anyway, so if you're someone from GM or who else does this? I don't know, other people.
Stellantis has it now on a bunch of their
Stellantis.
The Wagoneer and the Grand Cherokee have it.
Yeah,
I think Ford's starting to put it on some vehicles.
Fix that.
Okay. Yeah, good suggestion.
Fix that.
Take care of that for Robbie, would you?
I'm supposed to get the Pathfinder tomorrow, so I'm wondering what they'll bring me instead.
You'll get the X4M competition.
Yep, there we go. That's fine here. That's the yeah.
Yeah, the summer tires on a 500 horsepower X4M and with 3 inches of snow would just not have been a good idea.
Not a good combination at all.
No, not at all.
Nobody wins.
Yeah. And this thing, as I said, has a fairly hefty thirst for fuel. It's the 6.2 is rated at a combined 16 miles per gallon. I think I've been getting closer to about 14, thanks to the cold weather and everything. So.
And gas is super cheap right now, so whatevs.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Exactly. Yeah. At least I don't live in California.
I think it went down like a nickel.
Oh, really?
So only slightly
Mulch.
less outrageous than it was.
It's still it's still a lot. Which every time I have to go get gas, I'm like, man, I wish I could drive the EV right now. My wife's like, I need it for work, and I'm like, damn it.
All right. Last night, as we record this, Nissan had a little online event from Japan. It was Monday morning in Japan when they did this. They announced their Ambition 2030. So basically, they were laying out some of their EV plans for the next 9 years, which includes spending 2 trillion yen on electrification. Over the next 5 years, so between now and 2026. So that works out to about $17.5 billion, which is surprisingly, it's quite a bit lower than what a lot of other automakers have committed to. I think GM's at 35 billion, Ford's at 30 billion, Volkswagen's at 30 some $billion.
All the billions.
All the many billions. And I think it's interesting. Nissan was the first manufacturer to launch a relatively affordable modern EV 10 years ago or 11 years ago now with the original Leaf. And at the time, I remember being at the Tokyo Motor Show in 2009, and Carlos Ghosn standing on stage, talking about that they were going to launch 4 EVs in the next 3 years. I think one of those, in addition to the Leaf, one other one made it to the market in some places, which was the electric version of the NV200 van. It was never sold in North America. And they've, after being an early leader in the EV space,
the number one selling EV in the world was the Leaf.
Yeah,
they had the number one spot.
Was it really?
Yes,
wow.
The number one selling EV in the world was the Nissan Leaf.
Until the Model 3 came out, it was the
Model 3
top seller.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they just sort of squandered it.
Yeah. Yeah, Nissan kind of lost its way with EVs. They're finally kind of getting back into it now with the Aria, but even that, has been delayed. That's not launching in Japan until middle of next year, and then it'll be here in the U.S. I think in October of next year. And with a starting price at $47,000 for the initial versions they're going to sell. But they're promising 15 new EVs between now and 2030. They expect 50% electrification, including EVs and their e-Power system, which is a series hybrid system that you don't actually have to plug in. And at the end of the show here, I have actually got an interview I did in LA with Aditya Jairaj, who's Nissan's director of EV marketing and strategy. And he talks more about this, but what do you think about what Nissan's doing?
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense. Everybody's pushing to EVs. I feel like them pushing is not the exception; it's sort of the rule. The dollar amount, like you said, does not sound as heavy as you might expect. It's an impressive number, but still not a mind-blowing number. 23 new models with 15 new EVs by 2030. 15 new EVs? I feel like they could do that.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably do that.
I could do that. Yeah, Robbie, you could do that by next week, I'm sure.
I could totally do that. Hold on.
But I mean, it seems like
got
achievable.
some
Whether or
wheels.
not, it all depends how well if they, what you don't know is how much they've already done in the background. We know what they're saying they're going to do. How prepped are they? I feel like to have this gigantic, event where they're saying all this, their Ambition 2030, they must feel pretty confident. Otherwise, it's going to look pretty silly. It's not like this is just a rogue announcement. It was sort of like
rogue. Pump.
Right?
Sorry.
Bump.
Sorry. I apologize, everyone.
No, that's okay. We'll let it go. So I don't know. I think the chances of them doing it are good. And it absolutely makes sense. Everyone's pushing towards EVs and electrification. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think, Nissan's rebuilding. They've been putting out everything with, they've been redoing everything. They've been updating everything. It's a company that's trying to restart and regain what it was. And I think part of that is the EV. And I think I've said this again. It's not a sprint to EVs. You can be a little late. You can't be a lot late, but you can be a little late and still be okay. It's, right now EVs, Tesla is still essentially the Kleenex of EVs. When people think EVs, they think Tesla, no matter how much GM says they're, with their one car that's out.
Which they're not even building right now.
Yes, they can't build because LG kind of screwed them over with batteries. But, I think it's considering where Nissan was a few years ago, this is really good news for them. It's less money, but they're also a smaller automaker. They're not, Volkswagen's huge. Ford is huge. GM is huge. Those automakers, they have a lot of brands underneath them. But Nissan has that and Lexus, and so they're like, we don't have to be ginormous. And if they're, as long as they're making actual headway, because it feels like right now we're seeing, last few years, everyone's been like, we're going to have 50 EVs, 70 EVs, 17 EVs. We're going to $60 billion, blah, blah, blah in EVs. But it's a lot of press releases. And yeah, there's more EVs on the road, but there's not as many as there should be. Meanwhile, Hyundai's over there in the corner just like pumping out EVs every 15 minutes. Yeah. I feel like every time I see something Hyundai's doing, they're like, oh yeah, here's another EV we made. You want that? Cool. Take it.
Well, as part of this event last night, they also revealed several new EV concepts, which have either of the two of you had a chance to look at these yet?
I have not seen the concepts. I can glance. Are they on there?
There's a link. If you go to the U.S. press release about halfway down, just above the subhead, increasing accessibility, there's a link to the Nissan Global site there, and you can see the concepts. Surf
out.
Yeah. So they've got a compact crossover that looks kind of like the Aria, called the Chill Out. A pickup truck called the Surf Out, a hatchback, I guess, that is kind of reminiscent of the Cube, called the Hangout.
Hangout.
And and a convertible called the Max Out.
Get out! They have all this stuff. Wow.
They have all this stuff, and most of it is just renders. But
they have all this rendering. They got a new GPU. It's hard to get GPUs right now, so they got a new GPU. They're ready to rock and roll, as long as they don't have to actually build a car.
Yeah, I mean, they could do this on one GPU. So they can't build them yet, but they can render them.
So I really like the Surf Out because it reminds me, sort of like spiritually, from the Nissan Gobi. Remember the Gobi from like the late 80s, early 90s?
Oh, yeah.
It was just really ridiculous, and I really wanted one. I mean, I remember me and my friend were just like, this thing is insane. And another friend was like, dude, that's never going to happen. What is wrong with you? Why do you think that's going to happen? I'm like, I'm saving up my money. I'm going to get this.
I'm buying this.
I'm buying the Nissan Gobi.
Yeah, the Gobi was a concept from, it was at the 1990 Detroit Auto Show. It was sort of a funky-looking pickup truck concept. Definitely.
It didn't have a lot of emojis. No emojis. It was just weird looking. Yeah. But so
this was before emojis were a thing.
Yeah. So and we got the Surf Out, which is anything that has anything to do with surfing. I'm always a fan of. But yeah, I mean, if you had something close to the Surf Out, if we can get another small truck on the market that also happens to be an EV, I think Nissan will.
I like the Hangout. I think the Hangout looks very much like a Starship. Like an away team pod for the Enterprise. I kind of like the Hangout.
Like you don't wear a red shirt if you're in it because you're not coming back.
Right, because then you will die. Right, and if you notice in the picture, people are wearing. Oh, there's a girl wearing a red and white striped shirt.
She's gonna be eaten by a bear.
Oh yeah, bear's got that.
Sorry,
kid.
girl. Sorry,
Definitely
kid.
A bear.
Oh yeah, that kid's bear fodder.
Goner. Completely goner.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Hangout is pretty cool. I like that one.
I like the Hangout. I like how that one looks.
I like that they're all kind of small. They're not like ginormous. But of course, people
there really isn't anything big. Like if you want they are actually all very small. If you want a big vehicle, well, you got the Tahoe that Sam was just in.
Yeah. Hella big Tahoe.
The hella big Tahoe.
The GMC has started to build, production Hummers now in Detroit. So, those will be getting to customers by the end of December. So, they've got that end of the market covered. And, someday Tesla might even build a second Cybertruck. So, somebody needs to cover the smaller end of the market. So I think it's good.
All solid state batteries by 2028.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I mean, I'm actually saying good luck because if you can do that, that's great. It's I think we get really excited about solid state. It's the magic bullet.
There's
a long time.
There's a lot of interesting developments going on in the battery space, which we'll talk about another time. But there's some companies doing some cool stuff that I think there's some things that have a lot of potential to really drive down the cost of batteries and improve the performance and the energy density.
Oh, yeah.
That'll really help to make make these things more mainstream.
Lithium ion is going to be around for a while, and it's just going to get better and cheaper. So it's
just different variations. There's a lot of different flavors of lithium ion.
Flavors like a Baskin Robbins of cars.
Yeah,
you guys are talking batteries, and I'm looking at the back of this Nissan Surf Out that has little emojis and stuff. Somebody's going to hack that and be able to make it so you can flip off the guy who just like is tailgating you, or like that is just so ripe to have obscene things on the back of that little emoji screen on the tailgate.
I mean, that's half the point.
You say that as if that might be a bad thing.
I'm just saying, I'm like, what do you give it 5 minutes after the first one leaves the dealership? Someone's going to be like, and I'm flipping off the guy behind me.
Well, the other thing that's kind of neat about the Surf Out is at the front. It reminds me kind of the canoe vehicle.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Because you've got that glass front
I
in
would
there, so you
agree.
can look straight through under the dash, out the front of the truck.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
need
see,
more-
the little thing. It says hi and a little hang loose thing, and it's going to be F you and a middle finger that's really going to be on the back of that.
If we can't get the buggy, the Volkswagen buggy,
The ID
ID, I forget what. And I drove that thing at Pebble Beach one year, and I absolutely loved it, even though I was only allowed to go like 38 kilometers an hour, which is like 20 miles an hour. And it, since we can't get that, Nissan should bring us the Surf. Come on, just give us something. Come on, people, give us something fun.
Give us the Surf Out. Give it to us.
Give it to us.
All right. Next up, Genesis has shown off exterior images of the new G90. And we don't know much about this one yet, presumably coming out sometime next year. But one thing that I did note is that compared to the current generation G90, the grille actually seems to be a little bit smaller. I was looking at pictures of this next to the current G90 earlier, and it's not a lot smaller. It's still a big grille, but it has shrunk vertically a little bit. It's still looks like it's about the same width.
Did the grill bother you on the old one, Sam?
Yes. There's too much grill out there today.
Too much grill in the world, and
Yes.
Hyundai heard you.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? With the Genesis, we're gonna bring it down a little. We're gonna take it down a notch.
Good. A couple more notches, maybe we'll be getting to the right proportions.
The right proportions.
I like how it looks. I think it looks good.
It does look.
Yeah.
It looks very. It looks like
pretty slick.
a very important person would be driving this car.
No, it looks like a very important person will be riding in the back seat of this thing.
But bump. There
Like
you go. That's it.
like his henchmen would pull up, and then they're like, "You get out."
Yeah, well, I mean, you can get the executive seating option in the G90. They've had it, like since the original, before it was Genesis. What was, the Equus, the Hyundai Equus.
That was cool.
They had that executive seating option where you could recline. So on the passenger side, if you weren't behind the driver, you could recline the seat. You had a footrest that came up as kind of like a business class seat on the plane.
Man,
Yeah.
look at those like subtle. I mean, it's not really. I guess not that subtle, but the shoulder line on the front tire is just sort of like. "Argh."
Yeah, well, it
kind of.
says
pretty
in
dope.
the text that it's a clamshell hood, so that line above the lights and the side
Oh,
lights.
is the hood? Is where the hood opens?
Yeah, so it's all one piece above that.
Oh.
I'm going full screen on the pictures now. Hold on.
I know. I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, wait, I need to.
We're all going full screen.
Like, I must see this better.
It looks. Yeah, someone fancies getting driven around in this thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely fancy.
This is going to be in season 4 of Succession.
I like it. I think it looks good, but I really like the Genesis brand, so I'm not surprised that I
Yeah.
like this one. I've been very happy with what they've done so far.
I agree. All right. Anything else on the G90 before we move on?
No, it looks good. Keep
All right.
up the good work, Genesis.
All right. Next up, there's been some reports over the last week and a half or so about Ford and GM getting more involved in the chip design process. Trying to move past this current chip shortage. One report was about GM. GM didn't didn't put out any press release, but Mark Royce was talking at an investor conference about this, and they're working with a number of chip vendors. And basically, from looking at what Royce said, what they're doing is they're moving their electronic architecture on their vehicles more towards a more centralized compute architecture. So, today, a lot of high-end vehicles have well over 100 individual computers or electronic control units in the car, and starting to consolidate that down. Following the trend that Tesla started. They were the first to do this, and other manufacturers are moving in this direction now. So you've got fewer computers, more powerful chips in there, and so GM's working with a bunch of different chip vendors like NXP and Renesas and Qualcomm. In fact, next year, GM's going to be launching some stuff, some new models with Qualcomm-powered driver assist systems in there. They're using their new Snapdragon Ride compute platform. And Ford is partnering with Global Foundries, which is they're a chip fab. They don't design chips so much as manufacture the chips. They used to be part of AMD. They got spun off from AMD, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And they're also working with them. And I think one of the interesting things, just like in mobile devices and even in computers now, everything's moving towards ARM-based chips, lower power, more powerful chips, lower power consumption, but more capable chips. And these things are designed, as you can do sort of a la carte design. You don't have to design a complete chip. You can pick and choose different pieces, so you can have graphics processors from one company and ARM cores and neural engines to do AI processing, and you can mix and match these and have somebody build it for you to your own specifications. I think that's what Ford's doing with Global Foundries. What do you guys have any thoughts on this?
What happens is if you rely too heavily on what other people are making, now we end up in the situation where we're kind of in now. I mean, we still need more foundries, regardless of even though they want to make more chips and they want to be more part of how the chips are made, et cetera. We still need more foundries and to actually build these chips. But consolidating, the hundreds of chips and hundreds of different SoCs or microcomputers or whatever, or silicon, portions that are in a car, and sort of bringing them all together. That's going to help with the foundry issue. It's going to help with greater control over what's going on in the vehicle. I mean, it all, at the end of the day, it all makes sense. Tesla's doing it, Lucid's doing it. Somebody else, the traditional automaker's doing it. I talked to them about it, and for the life of me, I can't remember who it was. Maybe Volvo?
Volvo's doing it.
Volvo, there we go.
The XC90 replacement is going to be using two central computers powered by NVIDIA Orin chips, which are really powerful chips.
Yeah. So, sort of consolidating it's instead of having, it's almost like if you had a bunch of stoves in your house and now you just have the one stove that you need with the 4 burners and the thing, as opposed to 15 tiny little stoves all around.
Instead of 15 hot plates
all over the house. Like one hot plate's boiling water, the other one's like cooking a turkey for some reason. You're like, let's just consolidate all this. And so like
And it seems like it's something too, that maybe that because of what happened with COVID and because of how things rolled out over the last, 18 to 24 months, this is something that probably had to happen at some point anyway. It just COVID sort of accelerated oh dear God, we need to do this, and we need to do it now. Maybe it would have taken an extra 5 years. Instead, they're all doing it this year. But it seems like something that naturally would have had to happen as they realized that the inefficiencies of what they were doing in the first place. Like, okay, let's get rid of all the hot plates and just buy an oven. You feel like that had to happen at some point. It just might be happening a little bit more quickly and aggressively than it otherwise would have.
And it's sort of smart to start doing it and start working on it now, because they're all working on new architecture for their EVs and their plug-in hybrids. And, if you're building a new architecture, you might as well actually build a new architecture with, from the top down. Mm-hmm. Or bottom up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just make it better. Buy one nice stove and one nice oven.
There you go.
One nice stove.
Yes.
It does it all.
And that's what we did, and it's working out great for us. So.
Yeah. See? Yeah, there you go. Meanwhile, my stove sometimes might get the right temperature.
That's why we replaced our old one. You never knew what kind of temperature it was going to be at. Getting those burners lit, it's a pain in the neck. All right. Speaking of chips, let's go into. We've got a couple of listener questions, and let's tackle the first one from AJ or Gupta AJ on Twitter, and he asks. Place your bets. The chip shortage will end in 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months from now.
18 months to 2 years. Foundries are hard to build. It's one of them got destroyed. Everything now has a chip in it. It's going to be a while.
I'm going at least 12 months, and I'm leaning towards your 18, because it's like you said, it's something that is not easily correctable in 5 minutes. It takes some time to correct the problem.
Stove manufacturing is tough.
Stoves are a challenge.
It takes 3 to 4 years to build a new chip foundry, and it's a very expensive process. I think Samsung just announced they're building a new one in Texas. They just announced that last week, and they're spending $17 billion on one foundry.
Or one Nissan EV.
EV. 15. That's enough to build 15 different Nissan EVs.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's for one chip plant. And Intel, earlier this year talked about building several new foundries in the U.S. and also in Europe, and they're spending, I think, a total of somewhere around $100 billion on new chip foundries. So, yeah, it's an expensive process. That said, I talk to a lot of these chip companies on a fairly regular basis, and most of them are right now. They're projecting, by the second half of next year, things should stabilize. So, about a year from now, they think we should be in pretty good shape.
But then a new PlayStation will come out and it'll all go to hell.
Go to hell in a handbasket. Yeah. That's it. Forget it. Shortage is back.
All right. The other question we had relates back to what we were talking about earlier with leather. This is from Andrew Pappas. And after listening to our previous episode, Andrew wrote back and said he's not the Andrew Pappas that I know that lives in my neighborhood. He says, I guess he was listening to This Week in Tech yesterday, which I was on with Leo Laporte and Doc Rock and Padre SJ. We got into a tangent about rich Corinthian leather, or rich Corinthian leather, as Ricardo Montalban would say. I can't roll my R's like that. I'm sorry. Maybe you can, Robbie.
Corinthian leather.
Of course he can.
In reference to the rich Corinthian leather spoke of on another podcast, who makes the best real, fake, and bang for the buck leather? So best real leather, best fake leather, and best bang for the buck leather.
Like which automaker?
Yeah.
Like who has the...
Best real. I don't know, that Napa. And whenever they throw that Napa, N-A-P-P-A, not the region of Northern California leather in there, that's always really nice. I think, what was it? What had some nice leather in it that I've been driving?
Mercedes. I feel like Mercedes does a really nice leather interior.
Yeah, Mercedes, Rolls. Everything
It has to be leather and leather interior is great, but when you have a little bit of Alcantara, a little bit of suede action here and there.
To give you a little bit of extra grip.
Like the little extra grip with a little suede. I like it has both.
I hate
Like pure leather is cool, Napa or otherwise, but you want a little bit of suede stuff, like a suede steering wheel.
No.
That's cool.
I hate the
You don't like the suede? I love it on the
absolutely
I
hate
love it on the steering wheel because it's fuzzy.
It feels slimy. I absolutely...
What is wrong? Do you have sweaty hands or something?
It just feels gross. It just feels wrong. I just want leather or pleather or whatever. Anything else.
Pleather is wrong.
Anything on a steering wheel. If it was wrapped in just dishcloths, I'd be happy. Just like some old dishcloths sewn together.
It has a little bit of the. I don't like it when it has metal on it. I don't like the metal on a steering wheel. Like some of them have like a piece of metal accent.
Oh yeah, and you touch it and it burns the hell out of you.
On hot days.
Like in the summer, you're like, and there we go, the imprint of today's steering wheel across the palm of my hand. It burns your hands, people. I don't like that.
Fake leather.
All right, who does the best fake leather?
I think Polestar.
Oh, Polestar's
Is that one a
fake
vegan leather?
Yeah, I believe it's the Polestar's fake leather.
Who else does like vegan leathers?
The ActiveX stuff in the Mustang Mach-E, I think, is actually quite good.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. There's actually, I mean, I remember growing up, the first car I remember my dad having was a 73 Dodge Dart, with, 1970s vinyl seats in there.
Oh my gosh, my dad had a Dodge Dart with horrible vinyl seats.
And they were just awful. The vinyl that you got in those cars in the 70s and 80s was just
crack. Vinyl.
There
was no doubt that was imitation.
It was absolutely no doubt at all that it was something created in a lab somewhere.
You just slide everywhere and it would crack and then stab you in the ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those were bad times.
I think I think the imitation leathers now, the ones that are like imitation, not because they're trying to save money, but because they're trying to use some sustainable alternative.
Vegan
those are
stuff.
the best ones. When they're just trying to be cheap, when it's like the base trim of an already really low priced car and it's just like, okay, it's fake. Those aren't so great. But if it's any kind of like, we're trying to be sustainable, so this is made out of recycled whatever, those are normally pretty decent.
Yeah, that's why I go for. I think Polestar probably has the best.
Okay, I go.
It's like man-made stuff with beads or something. I don't know. They have like a whole like company they work with a weird name.
Yes. There's a whole big thing about all of their sustainable bits and pieces.
Ada, maybe? I'm gonna look it up.
I can't remember, but I do remember hearing about it when I did the drive. All the sustainable stuff they do to make everything, like all the parts. So,
all right. How about bang for the buck leather? So here, I'm assuming he's talking about, real leather, but not the real premium stuff. Who's got the best cheap leather?
The best cheap leather. Trying to think of inexpensive vehicles that I've been in that had leather.
That had any kind of leather, that weren't just trying to do a fake, that weren't doing like imitation leather.
Oh man.
God,
that's a tough one.
I don't know that I think that there's one that stands out. I feel like I feel like they're all, even if it's supposed to be an imitation leather, not like we're just cheaping out, then most of them are pretty decent. I don't know that there's one that's.
Well, I think in this case, he's not looking for imitation leather, but
cheap leather.
Actual animal hides that are just, not like the fancy Napa leathers or. Andrew
demands some sort of dead animal for him to sit on.
Andrew wants a dead animal under his butt.
What is the best modern interpretation of rich Corinthian leather?
Rich Corinthian, gosh. Trying to think of something with a leather interior that I've driven that's not fancy schmancy.
I know, because the ones that come to mind are fancy cars to begin with that had these beautiful leather interiors.
You can get leathers, in a lot of mainstream, like, Toyota Camrys now, and Honda Accords.
Decent.
Yeah.
Did the Honda Accord?
If you just get the straight up leather interior in most cars, if it's a leather interior, it's going to be good. I mean, if you go from just leather,
it's not going to be as soft and supple, as a high end Napa.
It's not going to have that like. It's been
the perforated Napa leathers. Yeah, the Napa leather is the thing that makes the difference. Otherwise, the leathers that are real leather are all pretty decent, I think. And there's not one that stands out for me.
Yeah, I've been in the Accord and the Camry with leather, and they're both nice. Yeah.
They're both decent. They both felt like nice interiors.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know if there's one that's better. They're probably sourcing them all from the same people.
Just avoid the 1970s era darts that Sam and my dad both had.
Or just get it reupholstered.
Just fine.
Buy a car, get it reupholstered with rich Corinthian leather or whatever.
Find an old Cordoba in the junkyard and salvage the seats out of it.
Cordoba with rich Corinthian leather. Ricardo Montalban, we miss you.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry. The way he said Kirk. Come on.
Oh, now I'm going to have that con thing stuck in my head that was not. Now I can see his con.
Apologies.
I think that's a good place to cut it off for this evening.
A lot of Star Trek references today.
Yeah. You can never have too much Star Trek.
You should see my Christmas tree. It's loaded with Star Trek. That's why I have Star Trek on the brain.
Nerd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Of course, I'm the one that brought up con, so maybe I should.
Yeah, right? You started it.
Well, no, you did, Nicole.
I did with the car. I did.
With the little kid at the red and...
Yeah.
Yeah, that kid's not...
Okay, I started it. Fine, I started it.
All right. Stay tuned here for my interview with Aditya Jairaj from Nissan, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. It's Sam again. Time for another interview that I recorded during the LA Auto Show the other week. This time I've got Aditya Jairaj, who is the Director of Electric Vehicle Marketing and Sales Strategy at Nissan. We talked a lot about the new Nissan Ariya that was shown in its production form that is arriving next fall here in North America, as well as just Nissan's overall EV strategy. Enjoy. All right. So let's talk about the Ariya first. First of all, this is Nissan's first new EV since the Leaf, and taking a very different direction from the Leaf. What is the overall strategy for the Ariya? Aside from targeting what is clearly a more popular market segment right now with compact midsize crossovers, what's your overall strategy for going forward with EVs, starting with the Ariya?
Sure. So, first of all, Nissan is fully committed towards electrification. Right? So we have announced that by 2030, all our major models in key markets will have an electrified option. So we're fully committed. Now, Ariya is the first step. First crossover EV from Nissan. So 3 things about the Ariya which I think paved the way. One, there are different battery sizes, different drivetrains, so we have an Ariya for everyone, based on your needs. Not everybody needs 300 miles. It's more about education. Once you're educated, your range anxiety goes down, and you adjust based on what your commute is and what your life situation is, right? So this is an Ariya for everyone. Second, the experience that you get when you drive an Ariya, it is very different. I'll give you a very simple example. This is the first model in the US where we are launching Co-Pilot Assist 2.0, which is the next generation of autonomous driving. Right? We're stepping up from what we have on the Rogue and the Pathfinder now. So it's eyes on, hands off.
Yep.
Right? So this is going to be the first model. So Ariya is at the center stage. We're introducing this technology with the Ariya. So we're paving the way for what the future is going to be. We're fully committed towards electrification. There's an Ariya for everyone, and it's the stepping stone towards what's going to be happening over the next decade.
Okay. So you mentioned 2 battery sizes.
Yes.
What are the sizes and estimated range that you're going to get from each configuration?
So the big battery, the 87 kilowatt battery, will go up to 300 miles. And the 63 kilowatt battery, I believe, is 215 miles.
Okay. So at a base level, you're starting roughly where the Leaf Plus is today.
Yeah, roughly.
And then 300 for the more premium models. And assume the single motor is going to be front wheel drive as opposed to rear drive.
That's right.
Okay. And then optional all-wheel drive dual motor?
Optional e-force is what I would call it. Yes, it's all-wheel drive, but it's beyond all-wheel drive. Right? So when you think about all-wheel drive, it's the typical features of, works in inclement weather, good cornering, good acceleration, and all of that. Yes, e-force has all of that. But what e-force has, in addition to that, is it minimizes human body movement inside the car. So what we've done is we've built on the knowledge that we have from the GTR's Atessa ETS stock split system, and then we've also built on the knowledge we have from all the intelligent all-wheel drive systems from our crossovers, put them together, and we've put together e-force. So e-force is all-wheel drive, but it's a holistic all-wheel drive that gives you all the good things about all-wheel drive, but also gives you a much smoother drive, which basically reduces human body movement, so less car sickness and less fatigue.
That's interesting. That idea. I think that's a great idea. To have to try and tune your propulsion to make it as seamless as possible, as smooth as possible for the occupants. And it's something obviously you can do, I think, much more easily with an electric powertrain than you can with an internal combustion system.
So you say that we have a near 50-50 weight distribution, which helps, right? And the center of gravity is pretty low, so hence, we're able to use these systems and provide a much smoother ride, in addition to all the other fun stuff that all-wheel drive and EVs provide.
Looking forward down the road some years, when you start to deploy really, higher levels of automation, robotaxis and others, being able to use a control strategy like that, I think, can be really beneficial for those types of vehicles as well. Because when you're disconnected from the driving task, I know, if you're a passenger in a vehicle versus the driver, when you're actively involved in the driving task, you're much less susceptible to motion sickness than you are as a passenger.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Okay. In terms of the performance levels, I haven't had a chance yet, unfortunately, to look at the release that came out for this. But what kind of power levels are you going to have in the Aria?
So, in terms of torque, which is what stands out in an EV, on the Platinum e-force will have 442 pound-feet of torque. Let me say this, instead of going into the numbers, it's almost as fast as a Z sports car.
Okay.
The numbers are what they are. Jeff will confirm the numbers. But it's almost as fast as a Z sports car, and it's a crossover.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is one of the amazing things about this move to electrification is the performance that you can get out of these things because of that instant torque response, that 0 RPM torque. Yeah. Where do you see this vehicle fitting into the market? Because I know I did see the pricing on it starts, I think, about $47,000, which is a little more than what was talked about initially. When it was first shown.
So that's just for the starting reservation trim.
Oh,
so
okay.
Additional models with a smaller battery.
Okay, so that's that's an extended range version at that price point. Okay, what's the timing going to be for launch of the different variants? Fall of 22?
22, yeah.
Okay, so...
Well, but I think the question is the additional trim levels.
So when does the first one come out?
Yeah. So deliveries for the reservations... Okay. Sorry, I missed it. Deliveries for the reservations will happen in fall of 22, and due course of time, we'll have more trims that we offer.
Okay, so the first vehicles won't be available in the North American market till close to a year from now.
About 10 months from now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is that what about Japan and other markets? Is launching sooner there, or is the launch delayed?
It's
globally?
A few months before us. Japan starts a few months before us, and then Europe is right there along with us.
Okay. For the standard range variants, front-wheel drive variants, have you talked at all about kind of what the price point for those is going to be? Is that going to be closer to that $40,000 mark?
to see that. I mean, we've talked about it all along, starting around 40.
Okay. All right.
Around 40. Now, and then there's also the $7,500 tax credit that we have.
Yep.
So that improves affordability for customers who we're trying to target. Both existing EV customers, but I would say the bigger subset is going to come from Conquest.
And in terms of footprint, the Aria is pretty close to physical footprint of a Rogue, but interior volume is closer probably to at least what you get in the first couple of rows of a Pathfinder, I think, right?
It's very spacious. You're right.
Yeah.
It's very spacious, and the reason why we've been able to achieve this configuration with the Aria is because it's a brand new platform. It's not an existing SUV platform that we retrofitted and made an EV. It's a brand new EV platform with the battery positioning. What we've been able to do is to create more space in the interior. Second, under the dash, usually you have HVAC systems that take up space. We've taken all of that out, pushed the dash back, put it into the hood, and what you see in the Aria, I invite you to take a look at the interior. It's more about what you don't see. You don't see the center console attached to the lower dash. You don't see any undulations in the floor. And you don't see any clutter of buttons. So it's basically what you don't see.
Right.
Right? And it's the
because you've got
spaciousness.
things like touch-sensitive controls in that console that disappear when you're not using them, but as you approach them, they light up.
That's right. And when you use them, you get feedback.
Haptic feedback?
Haptic feedback like your phone. Right? Now, in addition to that, if you look at the interior, we've got available Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and wireless charging. So, again, no wires needed. But in case you do have a wire, you have a cord, at the center console, on the lower part, there's a place where you can wrap around the cord.
Oh, okay. That's so you don't have it hanging all over the place.
Not hanging around and getting stuck in.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
So you can wrap it around. So the reason why I bring this up is the interior is very spacious, right? For reasons that I just described, but it's very purposeful. There are I would say even artistic touches to the interior, which actually make the cabin a place that you want to spend more time in. So when I say artistic touches, what do I mean by that? So in the footwell, there's an Anden light. So an Anden light is very typical in Japan. It's a lantern, right? So in the footwell, in between both the drivers, there's an Anden light, and the finish is the Kumiko pattern. Again, the Kumiko pattern is very typical in Japan. Intricate finishes. So basically, what that does, it gives you the warmth of having some interior lighting. Second, it gives you a touch of art inside the cabin. So these are very minute but very significant items that have been done on the interior to make it very desirable.
Yeah, I think one of the as we make this transition to electric powertrains, one of the things that has allowed manufacturers to distinguish and create product differentiation has been their powertrain. Different sounds, different characteristics of the engines. And as you move towards electrification, a lot of that falls away. And so creating a unique user experience is a key part of creating, what separates one brand from another.
That's right.
And all these things you've talked about, in terms of the finishes, the lights, the smoothness of the control, all of those things seems like they add up to trying to create a Nissan user experience.
Absolutely
for customers.
Right. Now, to add one more point to that, you think about the interior. We don't have displays. We've got screens. They're cinematic screens. And one is convex and the other one's concave. Very purposeful. The one which is further from the driver, the curvature is towards the driver, making it easier for the driver to access. Right?
So that one's concave.
That's concave. That's concave because it's closer to the driver. And then in addition to that, you've got heads-up display and you can customize your heads-up display. So these three, these two cinematic screens and the heads-up display is basically your gateway to the outside world when you're sitting in the car. And it's all connected. So I'll touch on one more point. When you're sitting inside the car, there are different ways in which the car interacts with you and different ways in which you interact with the car. So you talk about the senses, right? We've got lighting. I spoke about lighting. We've got autonomous driving. When autonomous driving is activated, the interior lighting changes color. It becomes blue. So white is standard. Green is when ProPilot Assist 2.0 is available. And blue is when it's activated. Alright, so light. So there's ambient lighting and there's the interior lighting. Touch. I spoke about the haptic buttons, right? So there's that. And then voice. So you can sit in your car and you can say, hey Nissan, turn up the temperature. Or you can sit in the car and say, hey Alexa, play my music list or something like that. Or you can sit at home and say, hey Alexa, at home, hey Alexa, what's the battery status on my car, on my Aria? So you can interact via sound, you can interact via touch. There are multiple ways in which this interaction happens through the senses.
So you mentioned Alexa. Are Alexa voice services integrated into the infotainment system of the Aria? Okay, so you can use those commands in the way a consumer would use an Echo at home, and then it sounds like you also have support for skills, Echo skills. So at home you can do the status checking, that sort of thing. Okay. The infotainment, one of the things that we're seeing a lot more of as we go forward, around the electronics, is the ability to update things, do over-the-air updates. Is that something, aside from the infotainment system, which presumably is OTA updatable, are you supporting OTA capability for other systems in the vehicle as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Simple answer, yes. So OTA will be available on the Aria, not just for bug fixes and all of that, but also for feature updates. So in time, we'll get feature updates, and this basically helps keep your Aria fresh. Mm-hmm. So that's, again, I think that's something customers expect, and it's available on the Aria.
In terms of what kinds of systems can be updated, does it extend to basically the entire vehicle, or is it limited to certain aspects of the vehicle?
It's a vast variety of different systems.
All right.
So it's systems and features. They're different. So the vast variety of systems that can be updated via OTA, and features, again, it depends on what our engineers put together and what our customers basically want. Features can also be added. Not updated, but added. And updated.
Sam, before you leave, I probably got one or two other people who may get a little more specific.
Okay. All right. That's great. And then going back to HMI for a moment, you mentioned the ambient lighting changing color when you enable ProPilot 2.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about the HMI strategy around ProPilot? Because I know I've driven a number of different vehicles now that have hands-free capability, like Super Cruise and Ford Blue Cruise, and the HMI strategy is a little different for some of them, and especially for a hands-free system, I think it's really critical for the driver to be fully aware of what the state of the system is.
Yes.
And so if you can talk a little more about what the strategy is around HMI for that.
Sure. So ProPilot Assist 2.0, the basics, it's a eyes-on, hands-off system.
Right.
And it works on highways that have been HD mapped.
Right.
It uses the HD map.
You've had the system in Japan, on the Skyline in Japan
on the
for a couple
Skyline,
of years.
Right? So it's similar. So the key is it's eyes on. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about setting expectations with customers, right? If a customer activates ProPilot Assist 2.0 and looks away for more than, I think it's 5 or 6 seconds, the system starts beeping.
Okay.
Right? So it makes it super clear to a customer that your eyes have to be on the road. Mm-hmm. There is no gaming it. Your eyes have to be on the road. But you can sit like this. Mm-hmm. So that's very important in terms of expectation setting with customers. Second, when ProPilot Assist 2.0 is activated, it's not just the interior lighting, the color of the heads-up display changes.
Okay.
The color of the screen in front of the driver that changes too. So we're making sure the customer knows what mode they're in, so they know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right? It's very important to set the right expectations with customers. They should know what they're getting. The car doesn't drive itself.
Right.
There's active involvement from the driver while driving. This is a system that reduces stress. And if there's a situation where, I say this sometimes, if you go to a dance and your dance partner is either much better than you or otherwise, and you want to opt out of the dance, then similar ProPilot Assist 2.0 helps you opt out of certain dances. You're on a highway, the road is mapped, all of that. You can opt out of that situation, but you're still fully in control. The key is you're still fully in control.
And you are using an infrared driver monitor system as well as part of that?
Yes.
Okay. What's the availability of ProPilot 2.0 going to be on the Aria? Is it limited to particular trim levels? Do you have any information about what the cost will be?
So right now, we've announced 4 trims for reservations. The Platinum trim has ProPilot Assist 2.0, and the Premier Edition, which is the launch edition, limited edition, has ProPilot Assist 2.0. So right now, based on the trims we've announced, 2 out of the 4 trims have ProPilot Assist 2.0.
It'll be standard on those two?
On those 2 trims, it's standard.
And I would say, too, all trims will have ProPilot Assist with NaviLink, which
Right.
is the new
The standard.
The standard, yes. Yeah.
Pathfinder.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then in terms of the longer-term support and pricing, I know like for other manufacturers with hands-free systems, you're getting typically 3 years of the connectivity that supports map updates and so on. And then after that, you have to buy a subscription. Will it be a similar type of strategy for you guys? You get some period of time where it's included and then subscribe after that?
That's right. The exact details we're working on, but it's on those lines.
Okay, great. So beyond Aria, now that you have a dedicated EV platform, it's really purpose-built one, going back a decade when Leaf launched, at that time, the management of the company talked about launching a number of EVs in fairly short sequence. Most of those never did appear, at least not in North America. I think the ENV 200 did go on sale in some other markets. But what's Nissan's strategy for launching EVs? Well, I don't expect you to tell me specifically what vehicles, but presumably, what kind of timing do you foresee for adding to the EV, the BEV lineup for the brand?
Yeah. So, I think what's key here, Sam, is by the early 2030s, in the US market, which is a major market for Nissan, our models will have an electrified option, right? So I think that's key. So that's the cadence on which we're going.
And when you say electrified, you refer to some mix of hybrid, plug-in, e-power, and BEV?
BEV, yeah.
Okay. All right. Then one last thing I want to get into, and I don't know if this is an area you can talk about or not, is the batteries. If you can say who the battery suppliers are, and or talk about the battery architecture, because we're starting to see some interesting new things coming in terms of battery architectures from various manufacturers, and so if there's anything you can share on that, I'd appreciate that too.
That's a hard one to get into.
Okay.
Nathan might be able to help with that one.
Okay.
That's a hard one. No, so battery supplier, I think that's something we don't discuss externally.
Okay.
Supplier, the battery system, it's different from the Leaf.
It's a liquid-cooled battery.
Liquid-cooled battery.
Okay.
Liquid-cooled battery. Again, designed based on performance, based on what customers are looking for. Again, batteries go back to charging speed, right? That's most important. So the Aria will have 130 kilowatts charging speed.
Okay.
So you can go from 20% to 80% in about 30 minutes, which is pretty competitive. So to support that, we need to have the architecture set up in such a way that the batteries can handle
do the thermal management.
Thermal management system. So active thermal management.
And you're using CCS now rather than at least in North America.
Yes. That is correct. So in North America, in the US, we have CCS.
Yeah. I know, in at least in the current generation of the Leaf, with the CHAdeMO system, the CHAdeMO standard has support for vehicle to home. I know there's been devices available in the Japanese market. There's never been anything launched in North America. Do you have any plans for doing anything around bidirectional charging with ARIA through CCS?
So this is an area that we've seen. We know how it works because it works on the Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing what customers' interest is. We continue to gauge what customers' interest is. We take that and then we continue to make updates on our products. So it's definitely an aspect that we're considering. I'm sure you'll hear about more on this soon.
Okay. Yeah, to add to that too, we work with a number of companies that are working on, like the aftermarket products, and so we continue to work with them for certifications and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, because a number of the EVs that are coming to market now, have varying supports of bidirectional capability.
That's key. Varying supports.
Yeah,
not technically bidirectional, but
it's something V2L, or in the case of the upcoming Ford F-150, it's doing bidirectional, home power backup, through the CCS connector. Lucid has talked about having some sort of bidirectional capability, but they haven't really revealed details yet. But we're hearing more and more from a number of manufacturers.
Becoming an area that there's a lot of interest, and that is perhaps it has to be because customers are interested in that. So
especially for lifestyle vehicles, there's some interesting possibilities there. That if you have the ability to run other devices off of your car, to utilize that battery power for other things.
Especially in states like California.
Yeah, definitely.
$5. Gas is $5. Yes.
$5, and power. Your power from the grid can go away at various random times.
Exactly.
Certain times a year. So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, anything else about the ARIA or Nissan's EV strategy that we haven't discussed that you should be thinking about?
The one thing I will say, Sam, about the ARIA, in my mind, for a customer making a transition from an internal combustion engine to an EV, the ARIA makes that transition much easier. Yeah. The ARIA is a car. It's a crossover.
Yeah.
Which happens to be an EV.
Yeah.
Right?
Very, very. From a usage perspective, it's very conventional. They don't have to change their lifestyle very much.
That's right. And that becomes even more important when more of the mainstream conversion happens. Right now the EV market is 3-4%, whatever it is. It's still, I think we can call it still fringe. But when it becomes more mainstream, the transition has to be easier. It has to be more seamless. And that's what the ARIA does.
That does actually bring up something else I just thought of, which is around charging. You mentioned 130 kilowatt charging capability, which is great. The other challenge, that is often cited as a barrier to adoption, is availability of charging.
Yep.
Some other companies are, obviously Tesla's got their proprietary network. Other companies are building in aggregation across multiple charging network providers. What, if anything, is Nissan planning to do around that? Presumably, or I don't know, are you continuing your partnership with EVgo that you've had for a while? And are you doing anything beyond that to simplify the process of adding electricity to the vehicle?
So, for ARIA reservationists, the first 10,000 reservationists, we provide $500 of EVgo credit. The key there, I would say, is to get customers to understand how to use public charging infrastructure. This is like, once you learn how to use it, then it becomes seamless. So that's why, we want to make sure that we drive customers to using this public charging infrastructure, then they know how to use it, right? So our endeavor is to make sure that our customers have access on their fingertips to public chargers. So, we also have an intelligent route planner, which will guide you to different charging locations. So that's our strategy right now, where we want to provide customers seamless access to all the public chargers that are available, so they can educate themselves on how these chargers work, and hence, it works in many ways. It helps reduce range anxiety. It helps increase customers' understanding of how the charging system works. 80% of customers today still charge at home, primarily.
Right, and that's to be expected. So far, EV customers are mainly early adopters. They've got access to off-street parking.
That's right.
But as you expand that market, you're going to bring in more and more people that don't have that access to charging.
So it's going to become important. But the key is, once you understand how to use it, you get over that inhibition that it is super hard. Yeah, it is not easy as going.
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point about seamless, certainly you can find charging stations, but if you have to juggle a charge point account and an EVgo account and a Electrify America account and all these others, you've got multiple accounts that you got to pay them. You've got which tag do I want to tap on the thing? Are you doing anything to simplify that process for your customers?
Work in progress.
Okay.
It's an important customer adoption.
Yeah. And you've got some little time yet to roll that out. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Sam.
It's great to talk to you.
Likewise, Sam.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.